Welcome to part 2 of our draft series with Greg Gabriel. We are talking about draft prep, which we did in episode 1, and today we're going to talk about some players. Greg, how are you today?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing well. I asked you just before we went on about we've got some sad news about Steve McMichael. I know you've met him a few times. What a character, and hopefully he pulls through this, but it apparently sounds pretty serious what he's going through.
Yeah, from what I read this morning, it doesn't sound good. That's too bad. Prayers go out to him.
Yeah, he is one of, for those of us who lived through that 85 Bear season, he was one of the greatest characters. He used to do a show on Sunday nights on WMAQ Channel 5 here in Chicago, Sunday nights after the games. And he would show up halfway in the tank, and he would have a big butcher knife sometimes. I mean, he was
ready to carve up anybody.
Exactly. So prayers going to him. Greg and I.
Speaking of that 85 Super Bowl, that's the very first one I attended.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I think you mentioned that to me before. How did you get tickets to that one? How did that whole thing work?
I worked for the Giants, so I told George Young, I asked George Young, I said, "Hey, can I get a couple Super Bowl tickets?"
And he took good care of you.
Yeah. I mean, I had to pay for them, but I got them. But, I know tickets cost $75.
That's amazing. Now they're about $7,500, right?
Well, I mean, that they got scalped for more than that, but I mean, that was the list price.
Mm-hmm. George Young was very influential to your career, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was. Now he couldn't survive in today's world. And you'll appreciate this. When I found out George was a liberal, I nearly died laughing because I said to him, "George, you are the most conservative man I have ever met in my life." But he was also an educator before he got into the football business. He played football like now, but and he was a teacher. But politically, he was a liberal. But when it came to business, I mean, and money, diehard conservative. But when I started off with the Giants, there was no free agency. Mm-hmm. You found ways to stash players, and when you drafted a guy, you kept him around for a long time. You didn't have to worry about losing him unless you wanted to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. And once we got into free agency, that he just couldn't handle that part.
Mm. Yeah, that probably the liberal in him couldn't handle it.
No, and he didn't work a lot longer into free. Well, he went to work for the league office then, and was a big part of the league office for a couple of years, and then he got ill. In fact, the last time anybody saw him outside of his wife at any function, I was there. It was they used to have the kickoff classic at the old Giants Stadium. Mm-hmm. So that had to was right after I started with the Bears. So it was September, or actually late August, like August 30th, something like that, of 2001. So, and George was there, and Ernie Accorsi, brought George in. Ernie and George were, of course, good friends. And George, he goes, "Well, Greg, I'm glad you got that new job in Chicago, but, Ernie didn't have to let you go. He did you a favor." And that's how George talked. So, I mean, I could go all day on George was a big man until his final few years of his life, and I bet he lost over 100 pounds. Mm-hmm. But when he was real big, and I'm talking 350, 375, something like that. And, his desk or his office was here. And then right next to his office was Harry Hume's office, who was the assistant GM. And Harry did a lot of the contracts, especially with, the lower players and stuff. George did the big guys. Mm. And rather than George get up and walk to Harry's office to ask him a question, he'd yell out, and he had this bellowing voice. "Harry, did you get that fucking contract done yet?"
That is great.
I mean, you'd hear him. We'd be in our draft meetings down the hall, and you'd hear it.
George Young.
I loved him. Absolutely loved him.
What a character. All right, let's get down to the business at hand. I've asked you to provide some commentary on some of the players who are coming out at the quarterback, offensive line, and cornerback position. 3 position areas I think are of high priority for the Chicago Bears, and that's, of course, debatable. Some people will say, well, I'd rather see this position, prioritized over that position. Be that as it may, we've selected those 3 positions, and so let's start with the quarterback position. The one player, of course, that is definitely out of reach for the Chicago Bears and is definitely going to be the number 1 player selected in this draft by the Jacksonville Jaguars is Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback out of Clemson. What are your thoughts on this big kid who is 6'5", 220 pounds, and has a rocket for an arm?
Obviously, the best quarterback in this draft. I think he's got it all. He's won a national championship. He comes up big in big games. For the most part, he's been durable. He got COVID this year. Maybe a couple other little bumps and bruises, but good kid. Loves the game, and there's been some stuff out recently that might challenge that. I think it's BS. The people this time of the year go out of their way to try to find dirt, and most of it's made up dirt, or they take things out of context. The guy's a hell of a player. I think he's going to be a great pick for Jacksonville. And he's going to be playing for a good coach. I mean, Urban Meyer, we don't know what he's going to be like as an NFL coach, but hell, he was one of the all-time greats as a college coach.
Mel Kiper wrote a column where he said that he had Trevor Lawrence among the top 10 quarterbacks he's ever scouted, and he goes back to, I think, the 1970s of scouting quarterbacks. He had Jim Kelly, John Elway, and so he's put Trevor Lawrence, I think, at number 4 on that list. So that's pretty good praise for this quarterback, huh?
Yeah. Now, you know what? We find out if that's true, and we find out what kind of career he has. I mean, yeah, you can have a scouting report, but you still got to live up to the accolades, so to speak, and play well once you get to the next level. And then you got guys like Tony Romo, who turned out to be a great quarterback, and he was a free agent. Nobody wanted him. When I say free agent too, I always use this phrase: 32 teams passed on every round. So that's saying something.
Absolutely. And Greg, when you draft a quarterback like a Trevor Lawrence, what's the next step? Is it finding him playmakers, explosive playmakers? Is it building an offensive line that's going to protect him? How do you go about that process as somebody who has been in draft rooms, and advised general managers? What do you say? What do you do?
Well, first of all, you got to find out what he can and can't do. And you're going to know that once you get him in the building. And I mean, you can see stuff on tape, but you still haven't had that hands-on approach yet. And so then you're going to find out exactly what he can and what he can't do. In most cases in his rookie year, you're not going to have some of that stuff, depending on the team that gets him. A team who is a real solid playoff team was able to get to number 1, that'd be a different story. But we know that's not going to happen. So, but after that, it's, part of it's evaluating your own team. What do you need? Now, personally, I think you got to have an offensive line. Offensive line first, playmakers second.
That's hasn't changed since the game started, right?
Right. You got to protect him first. And if you can protect him, he's got a chance to make plays. Then you got to give him playmakers.
There you go. Andre Velasquez in the chat room says that he wishes you would have stayed on as the head scout of director of scouting for the Chicago Bears. Mule Skinner says, yes, he's number 1, Greg, but his lean body worries me. Tell people why you are about 20, no, more than that. You're 40 pounds underweight than what you were during the football season.
his lean body, I mean, he's 220 pounds. He's going to get bigger.
Mhm.
He's going to get, some colleges don't really emphasize weightlifting for the quarterbacks.
Mhm.
And case in point, look at Tom Brady's picture and then look at him right now. And it happens with everybody. They get into first of all, it becomes a job. Okay. So, it's 24/7, 365 days a year.
Right.
And the key to being successful is taking care of your body.
Mhm.
And so he's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. I don't worry about 220. He probably max out at 230, which is fine. That's a big guy.
Yeah.
And he might not even max out of that, maybe 225. I mean, you see, he's a well-muscled, lean kid.
Mhm. All right, let's get to the next quarterback. This kid out of BYU a year ago, this time, not a lot of people were talking about Zach Wilson, but now he has zoomed up the charts. A lot of people expect him to go number 2 overall. What have you been hearing about this kid? What have you seen about him?
Well, what he did first is when he got done with, I don't think he was totally happy. I wasn't happy at all with the way he played in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So he did something about it. And he would go back and forth between California, where his quarterback tutor was, and where he lived in Utah, and just spend day upon day working on his game. And that shows great football character, because he had the talent, but he needed to perfect that talent. And so, one of the keys to football character is desire to be great. And he showed that desire to be great by all the work he did in the off season as he prepared for this year. I think he's great. He's got good mobility. He's got great arm strength. What's funny is go back to his pro day, because he's the first guy that did it. And then everybody else did it after him. Roll to your left and then throw the ball way downfield where you don't have your feet set. He did it. Everybody there, wow, holy shit, look at that. Then everybody else had to do it because he did.
Right. That's right. And how do you go about, as somebody who has scouted thousands of players, how do you go about determining whether, when somebody says, I love the game of football, I am so passionate about it, how do you go about determining whether that is legit, whether that's sincere? Tell me a little bit about that process.
That's talking to contacts.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he's going to tell you that.
Right.
Don't listen to what he says.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, talk to the strength coach. Talk to the equipment manager. The people that are around him. Sometimes a coach is gonna jump on the table for him, because he recruited the kid. He's got to. So he's in some. You get him in a private setting, the coach might give you some negatives, but a lot of times, he's gonna be a company line guy. But you talk to the support staff, the trainers, the weight room, equipment guy, the janitor, the academic advisor is always excellent. There you're seeing, is he the first guy in practice, the last guy off the field? And I know that's a cliche, but the same thing. First guy in the building, last guy. How important is the game to him?
Right. Okay,
so I don't care if a guy isn't a good student in school. I mean, if he doesn't want to be a good student, that's his problem.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's got a passion for the game and he wants to be a great football player, and he's going to do anything he can to become a better player and improve himself as a player, that shows strong football character.
Mm-hmm.
It's the guys that bust, and we did a study on this when I first started first came to Chicago. A lot of guys that bust, high round guys. Now, some of them are overdrafted; they just missed the evaluation. But a lot of these guys, they don't have football character. They got great talent, but they lack football character. They lack that drive to succeed.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move now to a guy who, by all accounts, has a drive to succeed. But there's been a lot of talk about his physical condition. Now it's come out that he's had epilepsy. Dan Orlovsky, a month ago, reported that some people had told him he's the last one into practice, the first one to leave, and now he's kind of taken that back. Justin Fields, there's a lot of controversy on whether he's going to be, not controversy, but debate, whether he's going to be the third player chosen in this draft, or might it be Mac Jones? Justin Fields out of Ohio State, what are you hearing about this quarterback?
Well, number one, all you got to do is look at him and you know he takes care of himself. That kid is put together now.
Yes, he is.
He's probably got the best build of any of the quarterbacks in this class. And that's not natural. He worked on that. And in fact, I saw a video the other day of him when he was at like the Elite 11 coming out of high school, and or during his senior year. And he's a skinny little guy, So he's helped himself. He was a 5-star recruit. He was rated as one of the top quarterbacks in the country. He's from Georgia. I always wanted to go to Georgia. They had a starter there. He thought he'd have to wait, so finally he said, "Screw it, I'm going to go someplace else." I don't know the whole story there, but I guarantee you, every team that's interested in him will know the story as to why he transferred. But he's played great ball. I was up and down on him early. The more I watched and the more I talked to people, the more I like him. Okay, very, very accurate. Extremely athletic in that he can make plays with his feet. I think some of the bangs he's getting have to do with the failure of previous Ohio State quarterbacks. And that's ludicrous doing that. He's Justin Fields. He's not Haskins.
Right.
Two different people. Now, Haskins, he couldn't get through the pro day. He was so damn tired. He was sucking wind about halfway through, and I remember watching it. Talented guy, perfect guy. When I talk about football character before,
right?
The guy who does everything to succeed. He's the guy that doesn't have it.
Interesting.
And that's why he's failed so far. Not lack of talent, because he's got talent. But this guy, I think he gets banged for that. The school he goes to, if he was at a different school, you probably wouldn't hear it at all. I don't believe that, what Orlovsky said, and he did take it back. And, the thing about the epilepsy, I tweeted out, that pissed me off. That's private information. The teams get it. Somebody put that out in the public because they want him to drop. Okay, now, who knows what San Francisco, they don't have to lie, but they're playing the cards close to their chest, and they're not going to show anybody their hand right now. It really doesn't matter. Nobody can trade up in front of them because it's a lock that the Jets are taking Wilson, and it's a lock that from everybody I talk to, it's hard. Wilson knows he's going number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And Lawrence knows he's going number 1. So the draft starts at number 3. The player doesn't know. I guarantee you San Francisco's already made that decision. Whether it's Jones or Fields or Lance, we'll find out in 6 days. But I think that Fields is going to be a hell of a pro. I don't know if the epilepsy thing means anything. In fact, there was a tweet. Now I can't remember the name. It's a great player, LSU former guard who played for the Steelers for a long time. Who do you remember the name now?
Was he a guard, you say?
Yeah, Alan Faneca.
Oh yeah, great player.
Yeah, well, he said in the tweet he played through epilepsy too his whole career. He's going in the Hall of Fame, or is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, apparently the reports are that doctors expect the seizures to subside as he gets older. And
right.
It's never interfered with his athletic career, so it doesn't appear to be much of an issue. And I'm with you on that. This is probably some player agent who is hoping that his player is drafted before Justin Fields, and they may have leaked that information out, which
a team very well could have leaked it out.
Yeah.
Because it went to Rappaport is the guy that had it.
Mm-hmm.
And, hey, I've been part of that game. I know what people do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple stories I could tell you, but my lips are sealed.
I knew they would be.
So I'll tell you one. I won't mention the player. I won't tell you the year. But the guy needed a surgery needed a surgery. Wasn't a big deal. We knew about it because we had him in there. We had him in. We, had given him a physical and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we let it out the bag. The last day you could bring in a guy this year you can't bring him in, period. But it used to be the last day you could bring a guy is like 8 days before the draft. So the draft starts on Thursday. So the previous Wednesday is the last guy that you could bring a guy into your facility for a meeting, medical, etc. Now you can go to his place and work him out, but you just can't bring him in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I let it out the bag the day after. Because then nobody could do anything about it.
Right.
Well, I'm not saying who, and I'm not even saying if we took them. But
maybe I'll get it out of you after the show.
No, you won't.
Mule has a good question. He says, can concussions make fields more susceptible to epilepsy seizures? And I do know.
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Yeah, I do know that, and I looked it up very quickly here, that according to epilepsy.org, that concussion and traumatic brain injuries can lead patients to develop epilepsy. So that's all I know. That's all I'll share on that. But I'm sure, the medical staffs of all these teams are well aware of what the dangers are and have, one of the things, Greg, that you talked about, that because of the pandemic, the medicals aren't as trustworthy as they were before. So perhaps could this be a problem for the young man?
Well, this is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Guys that had some orthopedic history, they brought them into Indy 2 weeks ago, last week, and for a medical. And there's 125.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple guys. I think there's 2 guys from Notre Dame that were supposed to go. They got COVID, so I think they're going in this weekend. So that to get the same medical they would have had, 2 weeks ago.
Right.
But there was no internal medicine examinations done at that mini medical combine. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things when you talk that, the doctors are worried about. Now, in this case, he's obviously had this symptom for a while, condition, not symptom, for a while. He's being treated by a doctor or doctors. And I'm sure that all the notes and information from that doctor is being shared with all 32 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Not a doubt in my mind about that. And, some doctors, some team doctors, if they have a question, may call, or maybe they, have a conference call
mm-hmm.
with his particular doctors.
Right. All right. Well, let's move on and talk about the guy that a lot of people are saying will be drafted ahead of Justin Fields, and that is Mac Jones, the quarterback out of Alabama. And I got to tell you, Greg, I've kind of fallen in love with this guy because I love accurate passers. And of all the tape that I've seen, I think he might be the most accurate passer in this draft. What are your thoughts on Mac Jones?
Love him. And another guy, the more you watch him, the more you like him. There's two negatives.
Mm-hmm.
Starting games, but he really has. I mean, he's played a lot. He just hasn't started a lot. Right. Alabama always gets their second quarterback unless it's a close game. But he started 4 or 5 games last year when Tua got hurt and played well, and started all this year. Plus, he got the mop-up duty, second half mop-up duty, last year and a little bit the year before. So he's got plenty of experience. I think he's a very intuitive quarterback, got great instincts, can read the field. And he played let me go back to Fields a little bit for a second.
Sure.
One of the reasons that people get banged, or Ohio State guys get banged, is that offense is not a real difficult offense as far as what they're asking, people to do. Okay. Alabama's offense, that's a pro offense. Mm-hmm. Okay. You got to go through full field progressions. You can make checks at the line of scrimmage. You're calling protections. He's doing everything that a pro quarterback has to do at the college level. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sarkisian who was the OC then, the last couple of years. He has a great offense. And Alabama threw the ball more with this guy than ever before.
Right.
That tells you something right there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look at 77% completion over the season.
That's amazing.
I've never seen that.
That's pretty darn good.
Never seen it. And it's not like he's not throwing dump offs.
Right.
Okay. And sometimes, you look, a player can have an inflated completion percentage because of the style of offense they're playing in. And a lot of the stuff, you got the bubble screens and things like that. This guy's throwing the ball downfield, and he's still 77%. And he doesn't turn the ball over. Okay, so he runs a 4.8. What the hell's wrong with a 4.8?
Nothing.
I guarantee you there's about 20 quarterbacks in the league, if not more, that can't run that anymore.
That's right.
Okay, so, Tom Brady was a 5.2 or a 5.18 or something like that. And Peyton Manning never ran, but I guarantee you he wasn't going to break 4.9 when he came out.
I bet you're right. I think that's a good bet. So
so a lot of those guys are like that.
Right.
He's not a dual threat quarterback.
Right.
In that he is going to make plays with his feet, but he can keep plays alive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he seems to have good pocket awareness, and he's able to slip.
Knows how to step up.
Right.
Again, I don't forget, you don't hear people in the league. People in the league don't talk. Mm-hmm. Okay, you hear the analysts saying all this. Well, they ain't doing the drafting, and they've never done the drafting.
Right.
There's one guy who's been in a draft. Well, Bucky Brooks, and Nagy's not an analyst. Mm-hmm. But Nagy's been in a draft room. Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah have been in a draft room. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, I got to tell you, I'm really high on this guy, and he could potentially be available via trade for the Chicago Bears. And another guy that people are talking about that could be available is Trey Lance, the kid out of North Dakota State. You talk about an athlete. He is one. A lot of people have kind of compared him to Cam Newton in terms of his physical skills. What do you know about Trey Lance? What have you heard? What have you seen on tape?
Going back to when we were doing these podcasts and talking a little bit about it during the season,
right.
I wasn't that high, and I wasn't that. And part of it was my lack of knowledge on the player.
Okay.
And once you sit down and you do it, number one, another guy who played in a pro style offense was asked to do a lot. Mm-hmm. His upside, now, he's going to be raw because of the level of comp he played at, and he only played one game in 2020, but he played 17 games in 2019 and only turned the ball over once. Mm. That's an incredible stat.
Yeah.
He's got great arm talent. I'm just going to say this. He's got more. It'll take him longer to get on the field than the other guys because of his background. He only played one game this year, but he's got more upside. I think he's got more upside than all of the guys.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. That's my opinion. I mean, his upside is tremendous. Now, it's assuming I'm making some assumptions here, and that is, I've never sat down, got the guy on the board, but assuming he does all that right, he's got more upside than any of them because the physical traits are just rare.
Yeah, he is quite the athletic specimen. So of these top 5 quarterbacks, I'm high on any one of them. If any one of them were drafted by the Chicago Bears, I'd be one happy guy. How would you could you rate them for us 1 through 5 if you had preferences on who would be a good fit for the Chicago Bears, regardless of whether it's even?
I think any of them are a good fit. I think I'd take Jones over Fields because of the offense he's played in, his instinctiveness, his intuitiveness, and that rare accuracy. But flip a coin. Lance would be probably 5, but like I said, he might have the best upside. Don't forget, there were at this time 5 years ago, they were saying the same things about Patrick Mahomes. Now, Patrick Mahomes was a gunslinger, and you go back and watch his tape. He had the wow plays, but he also had plays like you go, what the fuck, and that's why he was the 3rd quarterback taken, because you didn't know. Part of that was the marriage with Andy Reid. Andy Reid's the best. If he doesn't go to Andy Reid, he might not be the player he is right now. So the marriage there was very, very important part of the equation.
Right. We got a question from Ravi in the chat room, and this is actually something that we talked about on last night's Draft on Tap show with Danny Shimon and Neil Stopchinski. The Bears going after a pass rusher in the 1st round. Say they cannot make a trade for any of these top 5 quarterbacks, and they are picking in the 20th round, and there is a pass rusher that they like a lot. Would you think that that's a good idea, despite the fact that they have Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn on the roster, and then signed Jeremiah Atoshu, so they've got a little bit of depth there.
And they like Gibson, who they drafted last year.
Exactly.
No, I don't see it happening. And this year's class of edge pass rushers is, say average as compared to other years. You can dang them. They got one guy from, 2 good guys are the guys from Miami. The guy from Penn State, great workout. He had 1 sack.
That's right.
Now, come on, 1 sack. He's a 4.3 guy. Oh, this guy's going to be all world. Well, he wasn't all world in college. He had 1 sack.
You better work on some moves, huh?
It was disruptive. You know what? You're getting paid to get sacks, Joe. And so that's worrisome. Russo didn't play last year. He opted out. To me, that's, some guys might have legitimate reasons. Some guys were trying to protect themselves. He had 1 season at the major college level, and they moved him around. And if you look, he got some of his sacks, or a bunch of his sacks, came when he's playing inside, not outside. And when he tested, I thought his workout was very, very average. But he's got the other guy, Phillips from Miami, he'll probably be gone before the Bears pick. I wouldn't touch the Russo. I can't say on here, but he's got some issues.
Okay.
So, I'm sure the teams know. If I know, they know. Put it that way.
Absolutely, sure.
So, I wouldn't take him.
All right, let's look through some of these other quarterbacks who are highly. Most of them will definitely, all of them, I should say, are definitely going to be a day 2 pick. Although there have been rumors that Davis Mills, the kid out of Stanford, could be a late first round pick because of what he showed on his pro day, and that teams might love to have his 5th-year option available, because he's a developmental type guy. He's the prototypical quarterback at 6'3", and just has a absolutely great arm. Your thoughts on Davis Mills?
Well, put it this way: he ran the exact same time as Mac Jones. You hear anything about the mobility?
Right.
Okay, different players. So you say different. Now, I like Davis Mills, another guy that hasn't started a lot,
right?
But another guy, he plays in the most complex college system in the country. Stanford system is a pro system and has been since David Shaw has been the head coach there. Okay, the quarterback's asked to do a lot of things. I know a little bit about the system. Pep Hamilton, who I worked with here in Chicago, and then in the XFL, Pep brought that system. Pep was hired as the offensive coordinator in Indianapolis after they drafted Luck, because he had the same system. So Luck played the same system in Indianapolis as he for most of his career at Indianapolis as he did it at Stanford, and it's an NFL system. And when you come to the line of scrimmage, part of that offense is basically there's 2 options for every play called. There's a run or a pass, and so and the quarterback chooses which option he wants at the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
And then he can check into another thing if he wants to, but quarterback's got a lot of flexibility, and again, what they're asked to do. So now Mills, because of that, that puts him a step ahead of a lot of guys. His biggest negative is lack of experience, and I saw somebody on Twitter say, "I don't want another guy who didn't start a lot of games like Trubisky." They're not the same guy. Don't go back to George Young. He goes, "There's no such thing as Hinduism in the NFL." Okay. There's no reincarnation. Okay, you can use comps, but don't say because this guy was one way that another guy is going to be the same. Yeah, you'd love to have a guy be a starter 3 years, but that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, that's rare.
Okay, because if he has 2 good years, he's coming out. He's taking the money and run. So you've got to go with the talent, and hopefully Dalton can hold the fort for whoever they take for a year, and then next year this guy's able to step in and play, whoever it is. Now, could Mills go in the first round? Put it this way, it wouldn't shock me. And I think I said this the other day. No 2 draft boards are alike. I got him myself as number 6. Some other team might have him at number 8. And another team might have him at number 7. Somebody can have him at number 5 for all we know. So but they're not the same. But somebody who likes him and has a quarterback need, they may go up and try to get him.
Right. Well, the Bears are that team. They have a quarterback need. I want to talk.
They are, but do they want to spend the capital? I think you got to see on how the draft falls.
Right.
Now, personally, my suspicion is they're going to try to get one of those 5, and they're going to give up a lot. So people are going to piss and moan, but you go back, Russell Wilson's a known commodity, and they were giving up everything for him and then some.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't going to cost as much as that.
Right.
But if he had the green light to do that, why wouldn't he have the green light to try to get there? Now, you can't get there unless one of those teams want to move out.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can say, why didn't you trade up? Well, you got to have a partner.
Right.
They got it. And part of the problem the Bears have is they're at 20. So that team, even though they're going to get some really good picks in the future, they're still dropping down on the quality player they can get. So they got to make that decision, but they might say, you know what? Because of the uncertainty of this draft, I'd rather have a one next year or a one the year after, or something like that. So, we're not going to know. The one thing we know about Ryan Pace, since he's been there, you don't know what they're going to do. Nothing gets leaked out.
They do have some vault-like secrecy going on over there. I want to talk now about Kellen Mond, the quarterback from Texas A&M. He is a lot of people view him as a day 2 pick. A lot of people have mocked him to the Chicago Bears. He's got the athletic skills. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. He had kind of a weak first half, and then in the second half played very well. What do you think about Kellen Mond?
Well, first of all, I'd throw out all-star games. You had 3 days of practice with those guys.
Right.
It's really what you do in practice that counts at the Senior Bowl, not necessarily the game.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, if you jump out of the game, that's a plus. But if you stink, it's not necessarily a minus. We had an old saying, and people still adhere to it.
Mm-hmm.
An all-star game, meaning the week of practice and the game, can push you up, but it can't hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, guys haven't, they weren't a bowl team. Their season ended in November, and the next time they played football was January, at the Senior Bowl. And so, they've been away from the game for a couple months. Mm-hmm. You're going to penalize them for that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
So, it just depends on the situation. I like Mond, big time arm, and a big athlete. I don't think and I'm not saying this as a negative, I don't think he processes as quickly as the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think that's why I like Mills better than him. Because the one thing I think Mills does really well is process. And so, that's important. He makes some dumbass throws every once in a while, but sometimes you wish he got the ball out of his hand a little quicker. What a coaching staff and a personnel department have to answer for themselves is why. And part of that is, getting the guy on the board, talking to people around him, talking to coaches. Coaches can be pretty honest about that if you say, hey, this is what I see on tape. Why is that? And the coach will be honest about that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's those things. And if everything they tell you, the box gets checked, then take them.
Is Mond and Trubisky a good comp? I see a lot of, based on what I hear you saying, the name Mitchell Trubisky comes to mind.
He's played a lot more. This guy's played a shitload of games now.
That is true. He has had much more college experience.
No, I think he's better at processing than Mitch was.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not at the elite level.
Right.
So that's part of the difference. But he's a good player. But it gets down to, I got to say this: you get to draft day, and Mel Kiper or Daniel Jeremiah and those guys, because those are the two networks that have it on TV. They're going to have their next guy rated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's their guy.
Right.
Okay, that's not the club's guy.
Right.
Okay, and there's 32 clubs, and everybody's got guys rated differently.
Absolutely.
So you could say, why didn't they take him?
Mm-hmm.
It was Kuiper's best guy. I don't care what Mel Kiper says.
All right. All right. Of the day 3,
and Mel's a good friend of mine, by the way. So.
Okay, I didn't know that. Mel is one of the most entertaining draft analysts in the history of that whole industry. It's become an industry now, draft analysis.
Well, they know he knew our pick all the time because I told him.
Is that right?
I told him within an hour of the pick, or who we wanted, and if that guy wasn't there, where were we going? And the trade-off was he'd never said a bad thing about us.
Oh, okay.
And also trusted. My relationship goes back to 1981 with him, and he, I trusted him 100%. And Jerry knew. It wasn't like I was going rogue. Jerry knew exactly. And then if you go back, look at those telecasts. When we make a pick, he was all praises.
That is great. That is great. Little quid pro quo there, huh? All right. Out of the day 3 quarterbacks, I selected 3 names, and I want to know if you like any of these 3 guys. Jamie Newman, who when he played at Wake Forest in 2019, I thought he showed a lot of promise, but then he transferred over to Georgia and decided to opt out. And he sat out his pro day, so the rankings on him, in my mind, he's just disappointed tremendously. But he's still.
I don't want him.
You don't want him, so let's scratch.
I can't tell you the Bears don't want him.
No, I understand.
No, and here's the thing. And again, I'm guessing, but I've heard a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
I heard he opted out because he wasn't going to start. He had been practicing.
Oh.
Okay, now. Whether that is 100% verifiable,
right?
I can't answer that. It's just something I was told. So he probably should have stayed at Wake Forest. But he, because of that and other things, there's just another guy that hasn't played a lot, but he didn't play at all last year.
Right.
These other guys played except for Lance, and Lance played 1 game. There's just too many missing parts there.
Right.
Yeah. So I wouldn't trust that one myself.
Yeah, I mean, if he falls to the, you got 4 6-round draft picks, and so if you wanted to invest one on a Jamie Newman, I wouldn't poo-poo that. But anything.
Well, that's a different story. That's not a premium round.
Right.
They're taking a chance. If the guy makes it, fine. If he doesn't, fine.
Right.
And nothing gained, nothing lost.
And all of these guys are these kinds of, picks players that, you're just hoping could surprise. Ian Book out of Notre Dame is another guy. I highly doubt he's going to be a quality NFL starter. He kind of reminds me of a career backup in the league. What are your thoughts on Book out of Notre Dame?
I think he's going to surprise some people.
Really?
I mean, I've seen every single game he has played. I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Mm-hmm.
I get the negatives. He's short. Don't tell me he's not athletic, because he's extremely athletic.
Mm-hmm.
He's tough as hell. Arm strength is not what you want, but arms get better.
Mm-hmm.
That is. If there's anything that's a stone cold lock, it's arm strength gets better when they get to the pro level. And it's because they start doing stuff with their arm, exercise thing in the weight room, etc., that increases their arm strength. Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, they're all perfect examples of guys who, once they got to the league, their arm strength improved dramatically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what do you think then of Sam Ehlinger, who is somebody that our very own Danny Shimon is very high on? He likes his moxie. He's a tough quarterback. He is well regarded as a excellent leader down at Texas. He was considered a day 2 pick, but now people are saying he's probably dropped to a day 3 pick. What are your thoughts on Ehlinger?
His pro day, I thought was horrible. Now, there should be no excuse to have a bad pro day. And here's why I thought it was horrible. It's not like he didn't complete a lot of passes. I watched this whole. You can get it on YouTube, the entire thing. Find me one pass that he threw a tight spiral. Everything was loose and wobbly. So the first thing I did after that was I thought, okay, maybe he's got small hands. But his hands are like 9 5/8, which is fine. You know, if he had a 9-inch hand or something, you might be able to understand it. Now, could it be he was gripping the football? Some of that stuff is just really simple stuff.
Yeah.
And now you go back and you look at tape, you don't see it on tape, but you saw it in the pro day, and to me that was concerning. Now, here's the key to this guy. His head coach is on the Bears staff. Herman.
Oh, wow.
He's an offensive analyst.
Wow. That is right. I remember when that was announced, there was a lot of connection there. Oh, could they be interested in Sam Ehlinger?
Well, yeah, but he's going to know the guy better than everybody else.
Right.
But Nagy's got to like him. DeFilippo's got to like him. And Pace has got to like him.
Exactly.
Regardless of what Herman says, they got to like him too. But It still gives them more inside information than anybody else is going to have.
Right. Well, and I remember last year when Juan Castillo was brought in as the offensive line coach, and we learned that he had worked at Michigan as a advisor and worked with the offensive linemen over there. So there was a lot of connections with Michigan offensive linemen perhaps being drafted by the Bears, but that did not happen. So it's not an automatic that, those connections that happen. That's for sure. Let's turn our attention to offensive linemen. This kid out of Oregon, Penei Sewell, is.
There's one other guy that I like, but I know mixed emotions.
Okay.
Around the league, and that's the kid from Arkansas, Felipe Franks.
Franks, right? They say that he's got hands the size of suitcases.
I think I wrote it down here. He's got 9 3/4.
Oh, okay.
Another big guy who's athletic. I mean, he's like the same athlete that Mond is, and the same size, and he's got a howitzer arm. But another guy who didn't get it done in Florida, then he transfers to Arkansas, gets it done in Arkansas. So now it's why.
All right.
I like the physical traits. I know nothing about the mental. So the coaches, but what I saw physically, I think there's a lot to work with.
Yeah, I mean, he has got some tremendous size. I think you've got it there, 6'6.5", 234 pounds. He's quite the physical specimen. He would be a great developmental pick.
What did he run? I got it here. 4.59.
That's not bad. That's not
okay.
Bad.
He was 6'0", 6'5", 235, 234, and ran a 4.59. And like I say, physically, he's great. I don't know what's going on I'm not saying that as negative. I just don't have the answer.
Right.
But if you want to draft the guy, you're going to find that out.
Exactly. Yeah, it strikes me that, now that you've got DeFilippo as your quarterback coach, you want to draft, even if you pick a quarterback early in the draft, why not also pick up a developmental pick, somebody who could learn from the staff, from DeFilippo and the veteran quarterbacks on the team and so forth? Just seems to me like Ryan Pace is not invested in developmental picks. You hate to just throw away.
So you're saying taking 2?
Yeah, potentially. Why not?
Because they only keep 3, and the third is usually on the practice squad.
Right. So that makes him susceptible to being picked up by another team, right?
Or out on the street.
Yeah.
Or they have to keep 3. A lot of it gets down to reps too in practice.
Absolutely.
So a lot of teams keep 2 on the active roster, and then the third guy is on the practice squad. And the third guy's a scout. His reps he's getting, he's not getting his offense reps. He's running the other team's offense in practice. And, he's not getting reps at all in his offense. Everything he does is mental reps. But now you draft a guy, unless you're going to get rid of Foles, you know that guy is on the roster. He's got to be on the roster, especially if you take him in the first 2 rounds.
Absolutely.
So now if they get the guy they want, maybe they move on from Foles.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk now about offensive lineman Penei Sewell. He's a mammoth player, 6'5", and looking at the tape, boy, he looks like somebody who is a plug-and-play player, although Danny Shinman last night said that perhaps he might see some action at left guard before being moved out to the left tackle spot, or right tackle before being moved to the left tackle. What's your assessment on this kid from Oregon?
That's not unusual to do that with a rookie offensive lineman. They played tackle in college. It's number one, it depends on what you got at the position.
Right.
Okay, so if you got 2 guys you can win with at the position, maybe one's getting a little long in the teeth, you to get him playing experience, play him inside. I was with New York. I think it was the 99 or 2000 draft around in there. We took Luke Pettigrew from Notre Dame in the first round. He played guard for 2 years. He'd never played guard before in his life. And then we moved him out to tackle. And teams do that a lot. But he's, there's no chance the Bears get a shot at this guy. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on him. But yeah, he's the real deal. The one concern, and this is the tackle group as a whole, and I want to touch on this.
Okay.
No, their arm measurements are either they're off, or none of these guys got the arm lengths you really want. Sewell's got 33 or 33. What do I got here? 33 and a quarter. And he's 6'5", 6'0", That means 6'4" and 7/8. Now, at the combine, well, here's what you had. Generally, you have a measurement from the combine, measurement for the pro day. Maybe you got a measurement from the day that the combine scout went in there in the spring. You don't usually get a 40 time then, but you at least get, because if they start running, then it counts as a spring practice day. So they'll let you get the Wonderlic test and the height and weight and stuff. But you look at this group of offensive linemen, and as a whole, there's a lot of guys with short arms, shorter than you want, but and they're tall guys too. Some of them are real tall. So that tells me maybe the measurement's off. And that measurement can be screwed up more than any other, because there's, it's just not exact. And what happens, I don't know if you can see this here, you get the guy put his hand out like this, okay? And you go to the, tip of his middle finger, and you're supposed to start it right. It's like right here at the AC joint.
Okay.
If you have the tape a half inch in the wrong direction, you can be a half inch short or half inch long. That's a critical measurement. Now at the combine, you got the same guy doing it to all 335 guys every day. So you got consistency. Who the hell's doing it at the pro day? I'll give you one. The combine scout, not meaning Indy combine, but the Blusto national scouting guys who go out and get a lot of this stuff in the spring of their junior year. Big Ohio State tackle who plays for Detroit. What the hell's his name?
Taylor.
You got the guy.
Decker, I think it's.
Yeah. Okay, so he's like 6'6.5", 6'7" guy. I'm talking to a GM. I'll tell you what, this is Howie Roseman. And this was, when this guy was still on stage. He said, "Do you like him?" I said, "I really like him on tape." Howie goes, "No." "Why?" He's only got 32.5-inch arms.
Hmm.
Now, more than any other position, that the arm length on tackle is important.
Right.
Okay, not as much for guards, but for tackles, it's very, very important. I said, Howie, they look a lot longer than 32.5. Well, go check his combine measurement. It's like 33 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the guy who took the measurement, the combine scout's usually the youngest guy on your staff who's learning, so you just can't trust it. You can go, I know I'm going on a tangent here, but it's important. You can take Senior Bowl measurement compared to the combine. I guarantee you, with 60% of the guys, it's different. Did their arms grow? No, it's where they placed it right here.
Right.
And if it's not right there, the whole measurement's off.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I've gone to the Senior Bowl 3 years, and it looks like it's something that has to be very, very precise. And if it's not, you can get it wrong. And if you get it wrong by a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, that can really impact the player.
That's right. Now the guy did it for years and years and years,
mm-hmm.
and is a perfectionist, very meticulous about how he does things. Is Mark Sadowski, who's now the Bears' college scouting director. Mark. His degree is in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's stuff and he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. Way above me. So
probably anybody in the world then.
Sato's probably a 40 test score. I was a 27. But he was precise with that. Mm-hmm. In fact, he built to measure the hand. He built this wooden box to make sure it was done right. That's the type of guy he was. Because you can be off on the hand measurement too. You've got to be able. Now, both of my thumbs have been fused, so I can't open all the way. But you're measuring from here to here mm-hmm. on the diagonal. Mm-hmm. And some guys, guy puts his hand up like this. Well, you're going to get a short measurement. You got to make them stretch that sucker out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the true measurement.
Right.
and that could be the difference of 3/4 of an inch. The difference between this and this. I got to put my.
Yeah, that's huge. That is huge. Part of the process. It's very, very important. Those little details really mean a lot. Now let's talk about this kid from Northwestern, Rashawn Slater. He's another guy that is projected at left tackle, but will probably see some time, depending, of course, what team drafts him and so forth. Probably will see some time at guard. What are your thoughts on Slater?
Well, first, as a group, mm-hmm. where a lot of these guys got shorter arms, these some bitches can run now.
Yeah.
Sewell's 331 pounds, ran a 5.09. And at 179.10, Slater runs a 4.88 at 304 with a 168.10. That's coming off the ball now, 168. But now Sewell has 33.25 inch arms. Slater's got 33. 33 is like the cutoff.
Right.
You look at him again, just watch tape. Mm-hmm. He looks like he's got longer than 33 inch arms. But, at least he's 33 is, like I say, is the cutoff. You prefer 33.5 or longer. But he might be another guy that's going to start off at guard and end up at tackle. Mm-hmm. Could be a Pro Bowl guard too, but talented guy. Yeah. He can pass. But the worrisome thing with me is he opted out. I like Dave Gettleman yesterday in his presser. I don't know if you saw the one quote where he said, he goes, you go to the pro days and some of these guys that opted out look worse than me. Now, I've seen Gettleman's physique.
He's a little on the plump side, perhaps.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, Slater is projected to go much higher than 20, so he'll be wearing the Chicago Bears colors. These next 3 guys that I have on my list, next 4 guys, Could be potential Chicago Bears picks. And let's start with Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech, 6'4.5", 315 pounds. Christian Darrisaw, I got to tell you, Danny and Neil Stopchinsky on our Draft on Tap show, they're not really high on Darrisaw. What have you heard about him?
Well, number one, he's got good length. He's 34 and a quarter.
Okay.
No, I think he's a good player.
Okay.
And whether he's going to be the third guy off the board or the fourth guy off, that's up to, like I said, he might be one team's third, he might be another team's fifth.
Right.
But the team on the clock who wants to take a tackle, they're going to go with, how they have those guys ranked. I think he's going to come in, he's going to start, and he's going to be a pretty good player.
Mm-hmm.
I like his movement skills. He did not run. I think he ran last week. I don't have that time.
Okay.
But he did not run at their original pro day, and that was because of an injury.
Right.
But I think he's talented. He can be physical. He can run block. He can pass block. He's got the length that you want. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't, put it this way. I wouldn't be upset if they took him. Personally, I think, when you're getting to 20, mm-hmm. usually at best you're going to get the fourth tackle. And that's the best.
Mm. Well, a lot of people think Tevin Jenkins might be there at 20, and he's been mocked. I've seen a number of mocks where Jenkins is going to the Bears. So I've looked into him a lot, and I really like that mean streak that he carries, and he's a very bright guy. I think he's got the Chicago Bears fiber, if you will. What are your thoughts on Jenkins from Oklahoma State?
Well, you got 6.052 there. I got 6.057.
Okay.
From the pro day, 317. Another guy who can run. I've never seen so many guys break 5 flat at the offensive line. This guy's 4.99 and a 177 on the 10, which is excellent. He's got 33.5-inch arms. So, and I guarantee you they're longer than that. But he's been mostly a right tackle. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, in today's game, you got to have 2 tackles.
Yep.
Because who's playing? Seldom or do you have a tight end helping you anymore.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. They both got to be good. No, good player. One criticism I have is sometimes he overextends, meaning he's a little bit of a waist bender at times.
Mm-hmm.
But a physical guy, strong. He did like 30-something reps. Now, in saying that does not mean you play strong, because the power for an offensive lineman isn't in the bench press. Okay, that's his punch.
Right.
But that power to drive people off the line, that's coming out of your ass and hips. Okay, so you want these guys. Jerry Reese, the ex GM for the Giants, he described, term he gave was a seat smasher.
Mm-hmm.
You want a guy with a big, wide butt, big bubble. And those guys, and more so at the guard position than the tackle position, but that's where you get your power.
Right. You need that center of gravity.
Right. And there's a guy, I know some people not like in the first couple rounds, but Hainsey from Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And Hainsey is in the upper body, very, very strong. He's got short arms, though. He's got like 32-inch arms, so he's got to move inside. But when you look at his body, and this is my complaint, I'm big on what a guy's with offensive linemen, what a guy's body looks like.
Mm-hmm.
He's real slender in the lower body. He's got narrow hips from the knees down. There's nothing there. I mean, they look like my skinny ass legs. And then, and he's just not, and there's no ass at all.
Mm.
So I think, and especially if he's got to move inside,
mm-hmm.
I think, those 330-pound offensive or defensive linemen are going to have their way with him and just walk them back to the quarterback every chance they get.
Yeah.
They're dying to play against a guy like that. That's my opinion. Some people think he's a center too. I want a big, girthy guy playing center because he's going against the biggest guy on the defense most of the time.
Yep.
So, and I just, that's my fault with, now he may, my personal opinion on him, if he gets drafted, he's going to make a team, especially if he goes, say, in the first 5 rounds. but I think he's the type of guy that he's going to stick around for a couple of years, and then you're always going to be looking to replace him.
And of course, you're talking about Hansy there. Let's talk about another kid from Notre Dame, Liam Eichenberg. Lots of praise going his way. Lots of talk of whether he can play that left tackle position. I think he's got the arm length to play.
No, he doesn't. 32 and 3/8.
I don't think he's got the arm length.
No, I like Eichenberg. I didn't Eichenberg fit. In fact, I'll tell you a story. I went down to a spring practice when this kid was a senior in high school, and he was visiting Notre Dame. I was Harry Heastand's guest on a Saturday spring practice into a scrimmage, and this was Eichenberg's first visit to Notre Dame. So I met him then, through Harry, and that's the only time I ever met him. But Harry introduced me to him. We talked for 3 or 4 minutes. Nice kid, and he's probably 275, then 270, whatever he was, because it was the spring of his junior year in high school, so he still had a senior year to go, and but that's where my first episode of Eichenberg was. So I watched his career, and he's a good football player, and I thought, watching him, he could be a late 1, early 2, and you're going to win with him at left tackle. His tape's pretty good. Then he measures 32 and 3/8. And unless that one's wrong, he's a guard. There is one tackle in the NFL right now that measures less than 33 inches. An arm length. One. That's it.
Now, in order to overcome shorter arm length, isn't it a rule that the guy has to have extremely quick, agile feet?
No, because the arm length has to do everything to do with leverage. Okay, and the old cartoons where the bully's got his hand out like this, and the other guy's swinging like this around, and he can't even hit him. Right. That's your arm length. The long arm guy's doing that, the short arm guy's swinging and not hitting. And I'll give you a common denominator with top pass rushers. Speed is not it. It's arm length. All great pass rushers have long arms.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay, so outside edge guys. Right. You can't have a guy playing on the edge with short arms. Like I said, if you could, there'd be more than one playing in the National Football League.
Right. All right, let's talk about Sam Cosmi out of Texas, because I saw early last college football season, he caught a touchdown pass on some trick play, and everybody was talking about his athleticism, but more importantly, he's not a bad offensive tackle. And
no, he's a good player.
Yeah. So
and another guy who can run 4.85.
Yeah, excellent. So what are your thoughts about him? Do you think he's worthy of the 20th overall pick?
Well, another guy from Texas. So the Bears are going to know all about this guy. No, I don't think he's the first.
Okay.
I think he's the second. Good player, a lot of upside, rare athleticism. Got the body you want. He's got good arm length. He's strong. There's, he was, what would I got? 6'05", so that's 6'5" and 7/8", 314 pounds. A 168, 10. The only guy, and he was the fastest, was Slater. Slater and him both ran 168 for the 10, and Slater was a 4.88, and this guy was a 4.85 and 40. That's moving for a big guy.
Yeah.
So he's athletic. So yeah, he's a plug and play guy. You're going to draft him. You're going to put him in and play.
Yeah, I kind of like what I've seen of him, and so I'm glad that you're endorsing him as well. All right, let's turn our attention now to cornerback. This position now has become a.
Oh, we left out some guys I like. Come on.
Oh, well, let's go to them. Who do you like?
Okay, there's a guy that gets a lot of play, but he's going to have to move inside.
Okay.
Okay, and that's Mayfield.
Yeah,
from Michigan.
Yeah.
Big right tackle, big physical right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Great run blocker.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 32 and 5/8 inch arms. So you're going to move him inside. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you watch this game.
Right.
Yeah, he's a mauler. And so, he could be a great guard.
Yeah, would be great for the run game, huh?
Yep. And then some guys down the road. Depends. They might not even be down the road. Depends how you like them. 2 smaller school guys. Dylan Radness from North Dakota State.
Mm-hmm.
Is a good player. Now he's playing against shitty competition.
Right.
He's a good player. But he went to the Senior Bowl. Mm-hmm. More than hell's own. Mm-hmm. And the other small guy, and this guy's another 6'8", 311 pounds, is Spencer Boot from Northern Iowa, running a 4.9.
Wow. Jeez. He can get downfield on a sweep, huh?
And he's got the longest arms of the group. He's got 35-inch arms.
And what is
so
he? Who is this kid again?
Spencer Broom.
Oh,
from Northern Iowa.
Yes. There's been a lot of talk about him recently.
Another guy that I think people are hot and cold on him.
Mm-hmm.
I just like his tape. I like the upside. He might not be ready to step in and play, but you got tools to work with. Is Steve Forsythe from Miami. Okay. And he's played like 3 different positions. Another 6'8" guy. And he's played like 3 different positions along the line. Played both tackles, played inside. He's 6'8", 307, got 34.5-inch arms, and another big guy around 5'1", 2. I think the speeds for some of these guys are rare.
Yeah. It's a fascinating class of offensive linemen, really deep. I remember sending out a tweet to Daniel Jeremiah, and he said, "Yeah, you could find a plug-and-play offensive lineman in the 3rd round of this draft." So it's a deep class, and that's good news for the Chicago Bears in case they don't get one in the 1st or 2nd round. Potentially, they could find somebody who could help immediately.
Yeah, now they got 2 guys last year that they drafted. I like both of them.
Arlington Hambright and Latavius Simmons. Yeah.
Simmons, what's wrong with Simmons other than he played at Tennessee State, so he didn't play, athletically, he's what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
He's over 6'5", he's got good size and bulk, he's got good strength, he's got real long arms, he's got like 35.5-inch arms or something. Mm-hmm. And the physical tools are there. Now, what hurt him and hurt all the young guys, they had no preseason last year.
Right.
So they didn't get that developmental time that they need. Hambright is a guard. Mm-hmm. Another guy that, he doesn't have the length to play outside. He's a pretty good tackle at both Oklahoma State and Colorado. Mm-hmm. But he was a senior transfer. But he's another guy that's under 33-inch arms. So you can get out of a game with him, mm-hmm. If you had to play him a tackle, but, you want him inside. They're both strong. Excuse me, I may be totally off on this because I don't know how the Bears feel about him.
Right.
But, they were both of them got actually before the season was over. Hambright played some games. Simmons never got in the game, but he was on the 53 late in the year.
Right.
I think it's, and you go back and you watch his tape. He got after people. Mm-hmm. He pancaked people left and right. Granted, it's against a little lower level of competition.
Sure. Now,
he was raw. Sometimes he had his hands out and stuff. You got to learn to keep his hands up, but that's coaching. Mm-hmm. That's not, that's strictly a coaching point where you teach him how to do it the proper way.
And hopefully he executes on those teachings. So,
right.
All right. Let's now turn our attention to the cornerback position, a position of need. Kyle Fuller is no longer on this team, a huge shock for a lot of people. There, the hope was is that he was going to agree to a contract extension, but for whatever reasons, it has not happened. Now there's a cornerback from Alabama that everyone is expecting is going to be the first one off the board. Clearly not in the reach of the Chicago Bears, but
he's long gone.
Yeah, but I want you to just comment on Patrick Surtain.
Well, I'm going to say this way. Most Alabama defensive backs are pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's
Number
right.
one, Saban knows how to recruit them.
Uh-huh.
Number two, Saban plays a big part in coaching them. Saban originally was a DB coach before he was defensive coordinator and then a head coach. And he spends, I've watched Nick coach at Toledo, Michigan State, LSU, and Alabama. Been all the places where he's coached. Watched him coach. He spends the entire practice with the defense, and during individual, he's with the DBs all the time. And DBs from Alabama have a history of playing well once they get to our level. So he's got the genes. His dad played in the league for a long time. The one negative is, he's not quite as sudden as you want some of the guys, but he's 6'2". He's not going to be as sudden as a 5'10", 5'11" guy.
Right.
Okay. But, and you go back and, he's like Peanut was, tall and long.
So, what about another guy with excellent bloodlines, J.C. Horn? His dad played wide receiver, and J.C.'s got the same kind of spirit that his dad had when he played for the Saints. J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. A lot of people expect him to be the second cornerback chosen, and who knows, he might fall to 20 given the way so many quarterbacks are going to be picked in this draft. What's your thoughts?
Well, I don't think they get a shot at. I mean, again, it depends how they fall in the draft. I think best bet would be the third cornerback. You take averages of where guys go every year. There's one thing that's a lock. 12 to 15 corners are going in the first 3 rounds. End of discussion. Every year it happens. And I did that original study in 2000. And I've watched every year, and I think only 1 year that wasn't the case. So my thinking has always been, if you don't get one by the 3rd round, you ain't getting one. They got lucky last year with a kid from Georgia Southern. That kid's got a lot of talent.
Kindle Vildor,
and he's a 5'11" guy that's got better than 32-inch arms, so that makes him play like a 6'1" guy. He's got real long arms for a guy under 6 feet. But Horn, the biggest negative with him, you like the tape. You like the way he plays. He's physical. He plays well in zone. He plays well in man. He's very sudden. He ran a 4.40 at his pro day. He can jump out of the building. I think he's got a 41-inch vertical or something like that. 11-foot broad jump. Got all the physical traits. Doesn't have interceptions. And he's got 5 drops.
Yeah.
Okay, now I learned this from Lovey. I never paid attention to it really in all the years I was scouting until I started working with Lovey. And I think we talked about this in the fall. A dropped interception is a bad play. Why? The offense still has the ball. Now, just going forward, keep track of how many times there's a dropped interception and the offense goes down and scores. It's uncanny how many times it happens. Might be a field goal, might be a touchdown, but I'm not going to say it's 100% of the time, but I guarantee it's over 80. And this guy, he gets pass breakups, but he's got 5 drops or 6 drops. So you got to feel comfortable about his hands, because if he can't catch, that's going to be a detriment.
Doesn't have.
And his dad was a receiver, which doesn't make any sense.
Right. Well, a guy with better hands is Greg Newsom out of Northwestern, the Chicago kid. What are you thinking about Greg Newsom?
Good player. Now he's a guy that you probably got a better than even chance that the Bears could be looking at him.
Yeah.
Tall guy. I like tall corners. He's tall.
Mm-hmm.
He's, what is he, an even 6 or over that? Yeah, he's an even 6, 192 pounds. He ran a 4.38. Another guy who can jump out of the building. He can play man. He can be physical in the press. He can play off and zone. He's got good ball skills. Nothing not to like about his game.
Mm-hmm.
Good, solid player. And then you're probably ask about the guy from Virginia Tech,
Caleb
Farley. Caleb Farley. A couple things worry me. His tape is excellent, but he opted out. And yeah, I got a bone of contention with guys who opted out.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Number two is he just had back surgery. Okay, so how serious is that? And Drew Rosenhaus tweeted out, "Oh, the doctor said it's fine." Well, of course she said that.
That's right.
That's what his job is. So what he says and what the doctors say are two different things. Okay, so and I'm not saying he's not going to be fine. He might be 100%, but he still had the back surgery. So unless your doctors sign off, then it's a red flag. It's just that's an unknown for us.
Yep.
Because we're never going to get the answer to that. And except for those two things, and Virginia Tech corners have a history of playing good. This guy's a good player. He's better. His tape, and I love Kyle Fuller. I have Kyle Fuller as the third corner in that draft, and that the Bears got him. And this guy's better than Fuller was in college.
Well, that's a great endorsement, but yeah, it is the durability.
But the negatives. I mean if I'm sitting in the room and you're doing this beforehand, you're not doing it on draft day. You've already made the decision. But in the meetings, I'm making sure we got all the right answers for that information. But and this is I skipped over this. He had the back surgery. Why didn't he have it when he opted out?
Yeah, that seemed because he had
all that time.
Right. He had it in March, and it's a microdiscectomy, which I don't know what that is, but it sounds serious.
No, it is. They're scoping it. There's no big incision.
Okay.
And so it's not as evasive as other things. But it's if he had an issue and you go back and you see his history, he's had some back problems there, so he needed it. Why the hell didn't he get it done in September or October?
Yeah, that is strange.
So those are things that I want to have the answer to before I pull the trigger. Now, if everything says okay, then hey, draft him. You got a hell of a player.
All right, next guy on our list is Asante Samuel, who on last night's Draft on Tap, Neil and Danny were really, really high on this cornerback from Florida State. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, some people say that Surtain might not be as sudden as you want because he's 6'2". This guy might be the most sudden guy. He is really quick-footed, got great hips, very explosive, can run. It used to be a 5'10" guy was the idea. 5'10", 5'11" corners were the ideal guys. I think was he 5'10" and an eighth. Let me see here. I got it here somewhere. I didn't write his down. I think he's 5'10" and an eighth, or 5'10" and a quarter. So he doesn't have quite the height that you want now to match up against the 6'2", 6'3" guys.
Right.
But he can frickin' cover now. And he plays the ball well, great ball skills. Transition might be the best, meaning going from the pedal to closing might be the best in the draft at his position. Very, very sudden. And I remember scouting his dad. His dad was pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how so many of the top cornerbacks in this draft have excellent NFL bloodlines, right? You got three of the top four cornerbacks whose father's played in the NFL. But Samuel is a good one. Now, who else on your list of cornerbacks have you looked at and you want to chat about?
Well, two that jump out, Kelvin Joseph, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Really good ball skills. Runs a 4.34. It's 5'11 and a half. Good cover skills. Came out early. He might not be ready to step in and start right away. I gotta say this: the Bears do a damn good job with corners, scouting corners.
Mm-hmm.
The guy they took last year, Johnson, they took him a lot higher than the analysts had him.
Mm-hmm.
And who was right? They were.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they got the kid from Georgia Southern, and I think he wouldn't shock me if he ends up being a starter. They do, and they got a history of doing a pretty good job with corners.
What are your thoughts on Duke Shelley with the Bears?
The only thing I don't like about Shelley is he's too short.
Yeah, he's a small one. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, there's teams that will not touch a corner under 5'10", regardless of what the tape says. Mm-hmm. They just take them off the board.
Right. But regarding Kelvin Joseph, the cornerback out of Kentucky that you just mentioned, there seems to be concerns about whether pro football is his number one love.
Well, I don't make a school call, so I don't know that.
Right.
I think he's a rapper or something, or a singer or something like that.
Yeah, he's released some albums. Professional singing.
Again, that's people that aren't working for teams that are putting this stuff out, because the teams don't put stuff out like that, So, and sometimes when there is a team that puts negative stuff out, it's for a reason. So he falls, because we really like him. Great ball skills.
Yeah.
A lot of interceptions. Where Horn doesn't have interceptions, this guy's got a shitload.
Anyone else on your cornerback list that you'd like to?
And I was going back and forth with this guy because his brother was a total bust. Belafonwu from Syracuse. Big, tall, very physical corner with very good ball skills. His brother was was the prototypical run around in shorts guy that just knocks your socks off with the workout. So everybody had to have him. Well, this guy doesn't have the natural athletic ability that his brother had. He's about 10 times better football player.
That's what I've heard about him.
And I like, he's 6'2.5". You never find a 6'2.5" corner. And because he's physical, you could probably play inside.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm with you about Obi Melifonwu. When he came out, he had a great Senior Bowl, and everybody was super high on him. And all of a sudden, he gets drafted by the Raiders, and you rarely hear his name anymore. So we've got to be careful about that. Anyone else, regardless of position, that you've heard about or seen tape about that you'd like to, share thoughts with before?
No, in all honesty, I just, I haven't given a thought. Some people were asking me about those Penn State guys, especially the defensive end, because he ran in the 4.3s. That he could end up being like Melifonwu's older brother. You drafted him real high because of his workout,
right? And
then he didn't do shit. Now, I understand because of the traits. How often do you see an edge guy who runs a 4.3? Besides never. But still, there's no production, and that's what it's about.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We got a couple of questions from the chat room. Zach Sullivan, so many people in the chat room have been talking about Greg Leno, the current left tackle for the Chicago Bears. And Zach says, how do you rate Leno as an offensive tackle? Do you think that the Bears should look to replace him immediately, or do you think that we can plug and play him for one more season? This is the last year of his contract.
Yeah, they take a hit cutting him. You're not going to cut him unless you've got somebody to replace him
right
with. Okay, so he's played good, and then he's played not so good. Problem with the tackle is you could have a great game and have 2 bad plays, and everything falls on those 2 bad plays. That's what you're remembered for.
Yep.
That's kind of like his play.
Yeah,
his play is actually pretty good overall, and then. The one I remember there was a sack last year where he didn't redirect back to the inside, got killed. So and that's concentration. Physically, he's able to do that. He overset to the outside, probably something, and I don't remember who the opponent was, but the opponent caught on film that he has a tendency to sometimes overset to the outside. So he had that. He was ready to go with that in the game.
Yeah.
So you got to pay attention to detail that you don't let those things happen. But all told, he's a guy, he's not even 6'4". He as measured at the combine, 6'3" and 7/8. So he's 1/8 of an inch off the 6'4", and maybe on another day he might be 6'4". But he's got like 34.5-inch arms. So that's why he can play on the outside.
Ravi asks, is drafting specifically for a stud nickel okay in the first round?
I wouldn't take it in the first round. But now, in saying that, you're playing with your sub package, 70-75% of the time. So that corner is that slot corner is a starter. Okay. So, yeah, you could do. You could argue that Samuels will play on the slot, and he is so damn sudden. He might be a great slot corner.
Well, and in your experience of working draft day, the day of the draft, you've got your board set, you guys know what you're going to do and so forth. Can you tell us a little bit about what that environment is in the draft room? Are people
I can tell you what I did.
Please.
I mean, number one, I was very superstitious, so I pretty much wore the same thing for years. The other thing that I was superstitious about was I had to do 1 hour of cardio. Couldn't be 59 minutes. It couldn't be 61 minutes. It had to be 60.
That's great, Greg.
Now, when I could run a lot, I used to run. Okay, then my knees got shot, so then it was, do elliptical. But it had to be exactly 60 minutes. And I had a thing, and to tell you, when it hit 60, I stopped.
That's funny.
But then you eat a lot.
A lot of junk food, perhaps?
No, there's always food brought in. Okay. We had at the Giants, actually, their photographer was a great cook.
Oh.
And he, the whole time I was at the Giants, the draft was like Saturdays and Sundays. And this guy right outside Giant Stadium was just doing some outrageous barbecue. So,
pretty cool. Now, and
he had great chocolate chip cookies too. They're about this big.
Oh my gosh!
But they were real thin.
Oh yeah, I like thin
and chewy
cookie. Nice. Now, do you have a recollection of being in the draft room and a player that you had your eyes on? I recall just recently you tweeted out about Peanut Tillman. You had a first round grade on him, and so you were hoping that he would fall to the second round. He did, and he became a tremendous player for the Chicago Bears. Any other recollections like that about guys who, you were all high-fiving and shaking everybody's hand when he fell to you?
Well, theoretically, I keep going back to this. Nobody's board. No two boards are alike.
Sure.
So now, you get to the draft, and if you're picking in the top 12 to 15 of the second round, 90% of the time you're going to get a guy from your first round grade. Okay, because just of the difference of opinion across the league on the player.
Sure.
So I can't tell you if 31 other teams had Charles Tillman as a first round pick, but we had him as a first round pick. And that was the guy, we were hoping that would follow us in the second round. And you go back 2006, we took Devin and we took safety, and we had a high enough grade to take the safety in the first round, but we didn't want to take him in the first round. We traded out. Okay, because we knew nobody was going to take him in the first round.
Right.
So it was, that's a reason why you sometimes trade out the guy you like, and you're doing a lot of research. You're finding out. I can't think of the guy's name right off the top of my mind. Works for the Dallas Morning News. Had a lot of ties. He's originally from Detroit. Columnist, was a football columnist for years for the Dallas Morning News. And he was very well known around the league, got great information, but he used to survey 15 teams every year and to find out where guys were going, not tying a player to a team, just the general area. This guy's a high 3. For the most part, he's not going till the 4th. This guy's going first part of the second round type of thing. And it was uncanny how accurate he was. Jerry would talk to him, and I had known the guy because he was good friends with my boss in New York. Tom Boysher was a player personnel director because they're both from Detroit. So I got to know him, but Jerry knew him real well because, Jerry started off with the Cowboys. And Jerry would talk to this guy twice a week for a month leading up to the draft.
Wow.
And like I say, and where he said guys were going to go, unbelievable how close he was.
Amazing.
And so you could get an idea of what the consensus was. Again, it was only half the league, but still pretty much what the consensus was of about where guys could go. So you might have a first round grade on a guy and know that, we got him high as compared to the rest of the league. So we'll take him in the second.
Is his name Rick Gosselin?
Yeah, Rick Gosselin.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Then, and a real good guy. A draft that we were sweating on getting a player was Greg Olsen. By far the best tight end. And first of all, he had a great combine, ran like 4, 5, 6 or something like that. In fact, a funny story about that is, they don't allow agents into the dome when, the guys are working out. So Rosenhaus was his agent. Rosenhaus is at a restaurant, and he gets a call from somebody or a text, and it says that, Greg ran a 4, 5, 6. Rosenhaus gets up from his chair where he's eating and starts running around the restaurant cheering when he got the time on Greg. But because he was the only tight end or the best tight end, and we really wanted him, that we sweated that one out. So if he was gone, like if he had gone 20th, I think we were 28th that year, 29. If he had gone, we would have traded down and get some other guys.
And of course, he's gone on to have a Hall of Fame caliber.
Well, that wasn't our fault.
Yeah, what happened there?
Blame a guy named Greg Martz.
Greg, this has been a blast talking NFL draft with you. We've got one more show planned on this series, and we'll do it sometime after the draft. That way you can do a thorough evaluation of all of the Bears acquisitions and also talk about the undrafted free agents. We know how important that is for the team. They've got 22 open roster spots as of now, so there's got to be a lot of work going on in terms of draft.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting. I forgot what the date is.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a date early in May when the compensatory thing with free agents shuts down.
Right.
You'll see a bunch of guys signed after that because then they're not part of the formula anymore.
I see. Yeah. Isn't it called the supplemental draft or something like that?
No. It's just that there's for the formula that the league uses to give teams supplemental picks.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Is gains versus losses.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the stuff you say, well, they're going to get a third round pick for that guy. That's bullshit. Because the formula takes into consideration, it carries over into the season.
Right.
And it's playtime, honors, things like that. So if you give the guy a big chunk of money and the other team is expecting to get something good and he gets hurt in training camp and he doesn't play, that the team that had him is shit out of luck.
Mm-hmm.
They get nothing, or if he plays lousy, let's say, giant contract and he plays lousy, he's not going to get anything, so that is all figured into the formula. The amount of time he plays,
right,
minutes played, that's into the formula. But they cut that whole thing off. I think it's in the first week of May.
We'll be keeping an eye on that. And I know you're going to Florida next week to see a new grandchild. Have fun doing that. How many grandchildren is it now?
12. I had
wow,
two boys born in the last 5 weeks.
That is wild. 2 boys. And football prospects for them? What do you think?
Well, hell, they're like this big now. We'll find out. Now, my daughter, her son's a week and a half old, and in Buffalo. Now, their dad's a big guy, and he was a football player. He's a great golfer too, but he's a scratch golfer. But he's like 6'2", 250,
mm-hmm.
And he's very athletic.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my daughter's only 5'2", so. I don't know what genes he's going to get on that one, but if he gets his dad's genes, he might be pretty good. And Nolan's son was like 5 weeks old, maybe 6 now. Both of them are extremely athletic. So, and he's got really big hands for a little baby. I'm only getting that from pictures. So, I'll see him next Wednesday.
Well, hopefully he learned your grandkids learn good outside shots, because the money is being made in the NBA. Those contracts are unbelievable what NBA players are making. You're talking about $200-$300. Baseball too. Some of these contracts are just unreal. I have always wondered, what has happened with the NFL Players Association, that these contracts, I understand there's 53-man rosters, whatever, but the contracts just pale in comparison to what's going on in other sports.
Well, it's a lot, yeah, but you got NBA, you got 82 games, and baseball, you got 162 games.
Yeah, but the TV contracts for football are twice, 3 times the size of.
Yeah, but then but don't forget, in the NFL, you're sharing revenue.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're not sharing revenue like that in basketball and baseball. And you get teams from like the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
They're the money they make just off of television is huge.
Yeah, it is indeed huge. All right, we're going to leave it there. And again, we started the show talking about Steve McMichael. We hope we wish him a recovery from the ALS injury. The reports are not promising, but we'll say prayers for him. And Greg, have a safe trip. Where is it you're going to? Florida?
Yeah, Miami.
Miami. Are you flying or are you driving?
We're flying.
Nice.
I've had my shots. I'm invincible.
Excellent. And are you taking your golf clubs?
Don't know yet.
Well, if you do,
because my stepson has just started a new job. He got he was working for one company and he was pretty far up the ladder, but he got recruited by another, like a competitor, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so he took it because it was a lot more money. But he just started with him, where he was playing golf 4 times a week before.
Right.
And now he's got a baby. And so I don't know if we're going to be playing any golf.
Yeah. Well, if you do, hit him straight, hit him long, and win some money. All right.
No, I don't bet him. He's too good. He's one of those guys that, he's 300 off the tee all the time.
Well, he's got to give you some strokes. That's the way the game is played.
Yeah.
Give you a couple strokes every hole. All right. Have a good time, and we'll catch you when you get back, and we'll talk some more football. Thanks, Greg Gabriel.
Sounds good.
All
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye. Bye.